Hey there, brothers and sisters. Vessel of Truth here. Jay from Virginia for the new people. I know everybody's probably busy and all that, but I was wanting to do a shorter video for you. Cover up, just to cover some of the emails and that I've got about certain things, and I'm going to cover it, in a way to where for you to learn more and understand more, it will cause you to have to search the scriptures yourself. But mainly I'm going to cover, give you the information that you need to ignore the lies that, the four-wall indoctrination centers are putting forth. But I pray everybody is doing good and has their plan of attack, for keeping Passover that's coming up. Talked to several people, and some of them talking about, they're going to go ahead and start tomorrow to get their unleavened bread and so on and so forth going, and that's all good. And I talked to other people, they've wrote out their plan, and all they got to do is, put it into motion, which is good. Basically, if it's your first time, it's kind of awkward and new, which is to be expected. But, it really is a lot of fun. And I think you're really going to see that, you can't help but feel closer to the Father when, you're actually taking part in that which we're commanded to do. To me, there's such a blessing in, taking part into something that, had been lost, to me for a long time. And then, to come to the knowledge of, hey, going back and doing, all these things that, basically were hid from us. It just, it brings about a blessing that, I just don't see any other way of receiving that blessing, and of course, it's different for each person, because you're different size family. Some people are by themselves, so on and so forth. But, after a couple times, you become a pro at it, and, you learn, what you can do better, what you're lacking here, and so on and so forth. And that's with everything, starting your new job, you're always awkward and, trying to feel it out, it's just the same thing. And the Father knows that. So, again, I just want to reiterate, don't allow the enemy to stress you out, and put you at your wit's end to where, you don't have any joy in doing that which, the Father has commanded us to do, because he knows we're all learning. And, if this is definitely your first time, hey, if you make mistakes, you make mistakes. You will learn as you go. The main issue is that your heart and your drive and want is to do the things of the Father. And, look around. I dare say, just in my own experience, besides, people from the channel and that, I may have come across maybe 2, maybe 3 people just in my area that are going to keep Passover. That's sad. Because, even though the four-wall indoctrination centers are hiding this and so on and so forth, most people are gearing up for their pagan festival of Ishtar. Uh, celebrate, the celebration of the fertility goddesses, and coloring eggs and having their family feast with paganism. And I know the Father has to look down, and you know he's not happy about it, for one, but besides being angered, I just have to believe that he's hurt, because these are his feasts. The lie that the fat cat teacher preachers say is a lie, that they're Jewish feasts. Out of the 12 tribes of Israel, only one tribe was Jewish, and that was the tribe of Judah, which is where Christ came from. He was the line of the tribe of Judah. And then look at what Christ himself said. He came for the lost sheep of Israel. Israel was the northern kingdom that was made up of 10 tribes. And they were divorced by the Father for breaking the covenant. And, for this reason, Christ came. So, Passover is not only about, the Exodus from Egypt, but, Christ himself fulfilled as our Passover lamb. That's a whole other story we could get into, but Christ wasn't a sin sacrifice. He wasn't a replacement, But yet, the four-wall indoctrination centers, they hide that truth as well. Anyone that, knows what the Word tells us knows that human sacrifice is not allowed. But the Father, did it in such a way that through one man, his Son, we could be replaced. And that's why, it says, that if you ever turn from the goodness of the Father after tasting his goodness in that, and try to turn back, you can't, because there's no more sacrifice left for you. A person can only be replaced one time. And it really bothers me that the seriousness of this truth isn't told by anyone, really. There are some out there, that has said these things, but by and large, there's more speaking against it than there are talking about it. So, just enjoy yourself, that you're actually finally, able to take part in that which is, older than all of us. Goes all the way back, for thousands of years. So enjoy yourself and don't allow the enemy, to ruin it for you. Now, moving on to, I don't want to ramble on and ramble on. I just want to kind of do a short video to, kind of encourage you all, and then give you all something to study, and that while you're even keeping, unleavened bread and that. There's a lot of people that's got questions about the creation account. And there are lots and lots and lots of questions. I'm not here to go about, the biblical cosmology. That to me is a no-brainer. There's no way you can read Genesis chapter 1 and believe in a globe earth. I'm not even going to bother with that. But what I will bother with is to help people understand, that here in Genesis, I'll move myself down there. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth." Now, it's important to understand that this word created is if you go into your Strongs, you come up and see that it's the word bara, B-A-R-A, Strong's number H1254. And it means to create out of nothing. In other words, from nothing he spoke and everything was. And then you read verse 2, it says, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of Yahuwah moved upon the face of the waters. We know that something transpired between verse 1 and verse 2. So, we read onward and, into the Bible, different books, when we learn that, between verses 1 and verse 2, that's the revolt of the one that we call Ha-Satan, or, some people call it Lucifer, but, Lucifer is really a different entity, but, we'll cover that down the line. Actually, Lucifer is Satan's son, but, we'll get into that another day. This entity, revolted and withdrew, a third of the angels and so on and so forth. And, then we read the recreation account of everything. You don't even read the word bara again until verse 21. All the other times you come across, what is the name? It's the word Asa, A-S-A-H, and it's Strong's number H6213, which I'm pretty sure that's right. We'll know here in a minute, but it means to recreate out of something that was already made. But here in verse 21, we see that, he actually creates out of nothing these whales. And then again, we see bara again when he creates man. But this creation right here in verse 27, this is six-day man. It says, so God created man in his image, and in the image of God created he them, male and female created he them. And then we read in verse 28, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over the living creatures and everything that moves upon the earth. This right here is the timing for Genesis 6, when the 200 Watcher class angels come down on Mount Hermon and mated with the daughters of men and created giants in the land. As you see, Genesis chapter 6 verse 1 says, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took of them wives of all those they chose. Six-day man is separate from Adam and Eve. You'll notice in Genesis chapter 1, there is no mention of Adam. There's no mention of Eve. But there is mention of six-day man with six-day female being made in the recreation account, which man is created in on day 6. Now, afterward, we read about, God planting a garden in chapter 2 and making man Adam, and then bringing to him Eve, and they're in the garden. But if we look at, chapter 2, verse 3, you'll actually see where it tells us, no ifs, ands, or buts. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. That word created is bara, and made is asa. And since it's just right here, we can do it. Created is H1254, which is bara. And then made is H6213. which is asa, which means to make. I love this little Bible program for your phone. um, it just, wherever you go, you always have the word, and I've actually got another Bible program that actually has, it's got the book of Enoch, Jasher, Jubilees, and it has all the Apocrypha in it, as well as the King James text. But on this account, you read more background text with, these other texts that they tried to hide from us, that being the book of Enoch, just the first book of Enoch. The second and third book of Enoch is just controlled opposition to draw you away by the Catholic Church. But if you read the first book of Enoch and the book of Jasher and the book of Jubilees, you will understand this account of creation. That, in the beginning, God created everything and it was perfect. And then the fall of the one we call Satan, Gadriel, and everything was destroyed. And then you have the first week of, the recreation, which included, the actual creation of whales and man, 6-day man. And then it goes over and gets specific and talks about, the certain lineage and seed group of which man had claimed for him, which God had claimed for himself to bring about, the Savior, because he knew what would happen. So, a lot of people will call, there is a big teaching about, the serpent seed and all that. I'll cover that in another video because I'm just trying to keep it short in this one. But you can actually go and do, the word studies and find out that, everything was made perfect, and then God recreated, except, when he got to whales and fish and that, and then he got to man, 6-day man, and then recreating the garden. And then also, another good study is to follow what happens to the Garden of Eden and, basically the tree of life and so on and so forth. I think, I got an email from, I can't remember who it was from, but someone told me that David Carrico has got a video or something like that on something about the Garden of Eden, following the Garden of Eden or something like that. I've not had a chance to look it up, but if it's David Carrico that's doing it, it'll be a good video. But, don't allow, anyone that's trying to tell you, that Adam and Eve was part of, the creation in Genesis chapter 1, because it's not true. Adam and Eve actually knew about what was going on with 6-day man, where the 200 Watcher class angels come down and there were giants in the land with Nephilim and so on and so forth, because whenever the serpent, tempts Eve, let's see, what is that? It's in, it says in Genesis chapter 3, verse 4, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods. Talking about, those that were out in the world, because there was nations in the land besides, because the Garden of Eden was separate from this creation. That's where Cain got his wife, guys. There's a big to-do about where'd Cain get his wife and so on and so forth, because, think about it. The Father does not like incest. So he wouldn't allow incest to start his creation. There were men and women and nations and all that separate from the Garden of Eden. And this is what you see the serpent telling Eve. You will be as the gods. All these mythological creatures, that were giants that were basically made out to be gods in the mythological tales that we're told that was just mythical, imaginary, whatever tales. They're actually true. You know, they were huge giants, and many declared them as gods. And this is what's being referred to here as, the serpent tempted Eve. And, there's just so much that the enemy really has done to draw anyone seeking the truth away from finding the real truth. Even so much to where, he infiltrated the four-wall indoctrination centers with a bunch of half-truths and lies. And, it's funny that most people, when it comes to asking them what did the serpent beguile Eve with, they say, well, he said that if they eat of the fruit, that they would be like God, as in Elohim, Yahuwah. But that's not what he said. You can look at, the word study. It says, as the gods. It's talking about the little g gods, made from the fallen angels. And, if you're believing just a little lie, it's going to affect everything that you believe. And, it's this foundation that everything else is built upon. That's why, NASA is attacking, the creation account of the Father, because if they can do away with, what the Father created, what he says that he created, and make everybody believe that it's actually something else, there goes the foundation that everything else is built on. We're not called to interpret, we're called to believe. And, sadly, most people have forgot that we're just supposed to believe what the Word says. It's sad because I've known a lot of people that, they'll come across something in the Word and they just don't understand it, so they'll throw it out, or they will interpret it in some whacked out manner to mean whatever they can come up with. And it's just so far from the truth, it messes up the rest of the truth. It no longer fits neatly together. And, the Father is not going to allow sin. Therefore, there is no incest allowed. Whenever you really start seeing what the word of Yahuwah is saying, it all fits together seamlessly. It's just certain pieces of the puzzle has been hid from us, or they've been, lied about, kind of changed up a little bit to where it's kind of the truth, but still a lie. And, you can't get the rest of the word to jive with the lie part. So, that has produced a lot of atheists. And if any of you have ever dealt with an atheist, and when I say atheist, I'm not just talking about someone who's dumb as a rock that says, I don't believe in God. It's all a lie. I'm talking about a true atheist that actually knows the scriptures. And I'm telling you, you better know your scriptures whenever you actually go to talk to an atheist, because a lot of them know their Bible that they don't believe in better than most people who claim to be a quasi-Christian. Because, whenever I've actually had the chance to talk to, an atheist and actually explain it and show them different truths that they were hung up on, things started becoming clear to them. And then they are infuriated that they had been lied to by so-called mainstream preacher-teacher people. And, some preacher-teacher people, they're at fault because they know they're lying, but they just don't know the right answer or the truth. So they're just regurgitating what they taught them in cemetery. And, that doesn't solve anything. I'm not so prideful that I'm going to lie to you. I'll tell you, I don't know, but I'll find out. Pride truly does go before a fall. And, people that are supposedly in a so-called office, which isn't an office, but we'll go with that, to help people, have destroyed people's lives by regurgitating lies and half-truths. And, it's a joyous occasion to see someone that had been a devout atheist come to the knowledge of the truth, because where they know so much, but yet they're hung up on these lies and half-truths that, mainstream, so-called churchianity is pushing. And whenever you're able to explain those truths to them, everything just starts to click and fall into place. That's like, whenever you get rid of all these, dispensationalism and, the millennial reign doctrine and the rapture doctrine and all this other garbage that's man-made and tradition and thrown in there by the Catholic Church and Copernicus and all this garbage, you're left with the raw truth of the Word. And it all fits together perfectly. Bring in, the Book of Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilees, the Apocrypha, and you have all the information that you need to put the puzzle together and see what the Father is truly saying. And, all of us living in this time and day and age right now, everything is at our fingertips. There's nothing that I'm saying right now that you can't go and look up yourself and find. You can actually download a PDF of the Apocrypha, a PDF file of, the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jasher, the Book of Jubilees, actually all different kinds of the translations of the Bible. You can download concordances, anything and everything you want to find the truth. It's at your fingertips. Everything has finally been revealed to us to where we have everything that we need. The biggest problem is the love of many is waxed cold. They no longer care. They've made up their mind through all the mainstream lies that, it's all a bunch of bull. We're into space. We're in an ever-expanding universe. We're spinning on a ball. And, none of this is even possible. People believing in the coronal mass ejections and, all this other stuff. Man, that is just a bunch of budkiss. The sun and the moon and the sun and the moon are local, and the stars are above the sun and the moon. There's software now for a person that's with their phone that can take a picture at the same time as someone in Tennessee and take a picture of the sun, and then both of them people upload their picture to this app, and it will do the math of trigonometry and tell you how far the sun is above the earth. And it has been done thousands of times. And every time it comes out to the sun or the moon is roughly 4 miles above the earth. That's not me saying it. Go and do the experiment yourself, or go and look up the data. truth is truth. The Father didn't make a spinning ball. He created what he created. Not to mention, they talk about how bad of a disaster it would be if the earth quit spinning, but yet there's 163 different verses in the Old Testament alone that says the earth is not spinning, unmovable, set on pillars, stationary. And then, whenever Joshua was in battle and all that, the Father made the sun go backward. No, take it back. It was Hezekiah. He made the sun go backwards 12 steps. And it was Joshua that he made the sun stop moving and extended the day for the battle. That's what it is. Yeah. Got ahead of myself. But yeah, both of those would have been a disaster. And Scripture tells you he stopped the sun from moving. And then in Hezekiah's story, he moved the sun backward. And what's funny is, if anybody is familiar with the software Stellarium, you can actually use Stellarium and go back, way back, before. And Rob Skiba was the one that was telling me about it. I pray he was a dear brother. But Rob Skiba was telling me about, the software Stellarium. He was real big into using it. And you could take it all the way back and look at the constellation patterns or whatever that the Bible describes for when Christ was born. And you actually come to the conclusion that, Christ's birthday was September 11th, 3 BCE. That's why they did 9/11, to forever scarred in the memory of people. And, there's also an anomaly in Stellarium where the sun stood still, and he said everybody thought it was a glitch, but, it is actually that way. And when the sun moved backwards, you actually see this in the software, because it tracks the stars. I don't know exactly how it works, but, to me, it's fascinating, especially if it accounts for, the sun moving backwards and the sun standing still. That is amazing to me. Because there's something about, the sun is at the head of, the movement of the constellations and stars and that. And stars are angels, guys. I need to shut up. But, as you can see, we can go on and on and on about, the creation account. Everything is built upon the account of creation. And you have creation, and then you have recreation, and then you have the Garden Eden account, and forward. And everything just fits together perfectly. I know a lot of people are just now really waking up to the truth. And I can remember back, when the Father started throwing all this information at me, and I really thought I was going nuts, man, especially because, he tuned me into flat earth stuff and biblical cosmology before anybody else was even talking about this stuff. And then, as other people come along and was discovering the same thing, it was comforting. But, for the longest time, I thought I was nuts. Especially because, the first thing that, he showed to me was, the lies and the total deception and corruption of what most people call the house of the Father today. Not just talking about the Catholic Church, but I'm talking about church, period, in America. Um, don't go there. You know, if you want to try to continue to go to, your church because you love the people there, or you love the pastor person and all this, you're going to have to, question the pastor on these things. Especially if they're going to celebrate Ishtar, which is a pagan holiday, or Xmas, which is a huge pagan holiday, and ask him, why he ain't teaching and preaching about keeping, the feast of the Father. Why is he so hell-bent on the tithe whenever it went out with the Levitical priesthood? All these things, they pick and choose what they keep and what they don't keep. But yet we have the words of Christ himself that says if you break one, you're guilty of all. You can't pick and choose. There's 613, commandments in the law or Torah of the Father, which includes, the Big Ten. And, not all of those apply to everyone. You have all the ones for the Levitical priesthood that are passed away because there's no Levitical priesthood anymore. And then you have those that apply to farmers or female people, female women, or, pregnant women, or married people, or divorced people, widowed, children, so on and so forth, whatever. So no one, even Christ himself, didn't keep all 613 of the law because they didn't all apply. But yet people want to call that bondage. It's not. Most of the laws of the Father are common sense. But yet look at the laws that you're under just in the state you're in. You're under 1 million or so laws. Just look at your traffic laws by themselves. And then look at your civil laws, municipality laws. I mean, and out of, 613, I'm not exact, but I'm thinking there might be 78, 88 or something like that laws that actually apply to me compared to, 1 million. I dare say that 1 million is bondage compared to what the Father says. And, Scripture even says, take my burden upon me. My burden is light. My yoke is easy. Several times in Scripture, he says that there's nothing that he asks of us that's too hard. What kind of a father would the Father be if he gave us, commandments that were impossible for us to keep? If I could just convey one thing to everyone, it would be this. The things of the Father are simple. We as adults, for some reason, complicate the things of the Father. Christ said, suffer the little children to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of Yahuwah. Childlike faith, childlike belief, everything of the Father is very, very easy. It's very light, and it's common sense. That's like dealing with other people. You do unto the other people as you would have them do to you. Just because you see these other people and they're wearing masks and they're in the bondage of stuff, feel sorry for them. Try to tell them the truth. If they don't want to hear it, hey, walk on, go on. And it's like, there's a lot of questions I get about people, what do I do? Because I know so-and-so is guilty of X whatever sin. And it's a bad, big, huge sin. No, it ain't. According to the Father, sin's sin. There is no big. There is no little. A white lie as we, mankind, call it, will send you to hell just as much as, killing 20 people. Everybody has a past. If their past is in the past, let it be. We're no judge. We treat people how we want to be treated. We treat people allowing the Spirit and the love of the Father to flow through us and be seen by those who don't have the Father. And they get curious and want to know, hey, why are you different? It's not rocket science, but sadly, schools, jobs, life in general here on earth has divided us more and more and made us more and more bigoted, when the truth of the matter is there ain't but one opinion that matters. Who cares what you say about me? I don't care if you're just sitting here watching this, making fun of me, calling me baldy or whatever. But I will remind you that there is a story in the Word about Elisha where a bunch of children made fun of his bald head, and the father allowed bears to run out and eat and kill over 40 children. So beware of who you make fun of. The story always fascinated me. I had to share it. Now everybody's going to be looking for that story in the Bible. It is. It's in there. I trust you. Trust me. It's in there. It's one of my favorite. We think that everybody should like us. And that just goes against everything that the Word tells us. The Word tells us that if we stand for the truth of the Father and His ways, being separate from the world, people are going to hate us for His name's sake. They hated Him first, so they're going to hate us also. It's kind of one of my things, if you're not being persecuted and people hating you and making fun of you because, of your faith, do they even know? Are you even sharing it? We can't be a closet child of Yahuwah. You're either His child and everybody knows it, or you're, in the Secret Service or something? The Father says, you deny me before man, I deny you before my Father. Things are going on in this world I pray it's getting your attention. Just today, current events, the stage is set for us to go to war. They are talking about, the grid coming under attack and everything going dark, all communications, all electric gone. We're poking the bear, and we're poking, the bear being China, the panda, and we're poking Russia. We're provoking both of them. And now they've teamed up. And China, who owned 3 of the biggest gas-producing facilities here in the United States, is now pulling out, which is going to make our gas prices go astronomical. The trucks coming in from Mexico are being set on fire, so their supply lines are losing millions of dollars of product and that coming across the border because the cartels are setting it on fire. They're doing this on purpose, brothers and sisters. The word of Yahuwah will come to pass. That's why I said when I made the video about Passover, celebrate it with all of your being. Enjoy yourself. it very well may be the last one we're able to keep in such a freedom that we have right now. Um, we don't know exactly what the future holds, but I can tell you point blank that the Bible is being fulfilled right before our eyes. Um, it's time that we really get serious. It's time that, we stay prayed up, we're fasting, we're doing, the things that the Father commands us to do. And, one of the biggest things we need to do is, witness. Try to bring people back into the fold. I'm tired of hearing people saying, it's too late for that. It's never too late. Never. The Father said that, He didn't make quitters. There'll be no cowards in heaven. That should wake people up. We are the Father's hands and His voice here. We're either doing what He says to do or we're not. But I really do wish and pray that you all have a good Passover. And I pray that, unleavened bread goes well. And I pray that, whatever you all do for first fruits, and because, right after that, we start the counting of the Omer. Follow that another day. But, the feast of the Father, they're the key to everything. The last feast that was fulfilled was Pentecost. So it's the fall feasts that, are next in succession to be fulfilled prophetically. So I'll quit rambling. I just pray, that people understand the seriousness of the times that we live in. Yes, serving the Father is all fun and it's joyous, but, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of people that need to be, reached if possible. I just pray that you're taking the call of the Father seriously, because we're all called for that great commission. Go into all the world, giving them the gospel of the kingdom. It's our brothers and our sisters. We are our brother's keeper. And, if you don't love your brother, the Father says that, you're not a child of His. These things are all serious. But yet, for some reason, it just doesn't carry much weight anymore. I don't know, this is kind of a different video, but I have no clue what I'm going to call it. But kind of been all over the place, but it did answer quite a many questions I've gotten emails, though, so I know I've been all over the place, but, I really just want you all to know that, the times that we're in right now are serious. It is definitely not the time to be playing games. It's definitely not the time to continue in sin that you need to get rid of. It's time that we become the true children of Yahuwah, clean and pure, unspotted by the world, because if you're not that way, you're not going to be separated as the Church of Philadelphia will be and protected from the tribulation that comes upon the world. Just a little food for thought. So, as always, if anybody needs to get a hold of me, you can email me at jtt1777@outlook.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. As always, keep seeking the face of the Father, armoring up every morning before you even get out of bed. continue praying for one another and witnessing and just being the miracle that you see other people needing. So, with that, Yahuwah bless you and keep you always, and I'll see you on the next one.